So
Wait.
50 days,
Yeah.
39 face-to-face submissions, 5 listings.
Healthy. And what is the total value of all 5 of those listings?
If they all come off at the levels that we think they will, it's about 180k total comms.
Done 39 physical appraisals. Of the 39, you did 5 listings. What is the value of those in its entirety, like dollar value? Because obviously the outcome of that dollar value is obviously what's gross is 180k in commissions, but what's the value of the properties out of curiosity?
The actual properties,
Yeah.
about 8.5 million. So the first thing I'd say to somebody if they're thinking of investing money into something like this is make sure that you're willing to be committed, right? If you're not a person that is willing to make those calls immediately, like if you're a staller, if you're like, I need to think about how I'm going to talk to this person.
Yeah.
This is probably not for you, that's something that you can't always learn, and you certainly can't learn it quickly and on the job. You got to have a bit of time on that. So if you're in that category, I'd be like, you can give it a go, but don't go blaming the system for non-performance if you can't do that.
Conrad, welcome. Thank you very much for creating time to do this with me. I want to kick it off by just asking, what do you do? What's your role? What areas do you target, and what type of homes do you sell?
Okay, so obviously this was the new angle for you guys, was dealing a little bit with the rural space, because that's what we do. We're a rural real estate company, so we specialise in farms, grazing blocks, orchards. I diversify a little bit into the subdivisional side of things, because obviously rural land that's close to the proximity of cities that are expanding does become residentially zoned, or will be future residentially zoned. So that stuff makes up a large part of what I do too. Very large area geographically. Obviously, we're on the Bay of Plenty, and
it's massive. It's huge.
Yeah. So
huge area.
if you were to put a circle on it, it would be 300 kilometers in sort of radius. So I can go and be 2.5 to 3 hours in the car to go for an open day to put somebody over a farm and then drive back in. So plenty of Ks and a vast area. Yeah, but rural specific. That's what we do.
Rural and like lifestyle. Yeah.
Yes, there's a generic crossover there, obviously. We get a lot of lifestylers. They call it a life sentence, right? And it's a 3-year life sentence, they call it, because they turn over every 3 years generically. Like that's what the data tells us. Yeah, so people in residential who are, cooking their meal in the kitchen, looking out their window at somebody in the shower, they go, I don't like this anymore, and they move to the country. And then they move to the country and they realise that there's a lot of work involved. Like if you're going to go over a hectare, you need to have a lawnmower with a heartbeat. You can't just go out there and mowing lawns all weekend, maintenance to fences if you've got animals, if you've got orchard trees or anything like that. There's all sorts of stuff that has to keep happening, otherwise your property just goes backwards rapidly. And so what we've figured out quite quickly, and it's quite well known, is that that's about a 3-year turnover for a majority of those purchases. So they come in all guns blazing hot, thinking it's going to be great. And within 3 years, they're like, get me out of here. Like they want to go back.
So you hear the story often, huh? Which is people just like, come from the city. Yeah, we just want to get away from the city life. And then you're like, cool, no problem. And you set them up and you find every 3 years, they're just like, hey, let's get back to
a good portion of them. Like, I'm not saying all of them, but we get a really regular turnover, because what? They want their nice latte with the tulip in it, and they want to be able to go down the road. Like if they, they're sitting there watching maths and they want an ice cream, they got to drive 30 minutes or 25 minutes to go get an ice cream, and that stuff just builds up over time, and either people go, well, this is the life, or they go, right, let's go back to a bit of civilization. So
it's interesting, man. I'm actually thinking literally for myself, like to head out, and you saying that, you gave me some perspective to think about. So that's very interesting. Before we started working together, because it's been like what, 2-3 years?
I suppose in total, it would be, in and out though. Like we've sort of been dipping our toes in different projects, but overall, it'd be maybe 2.5 years.
Yeah, but do you remember what it was like at the start before having a system that's like a tap where you're able to generate consistent lead flow. Because, in essence, I think the biggest obstacle that most real estate professionals find is that they just don't have enough people to contact that are actively, on the prowl looking to sell their property. Like, what do you remember as the contrast, if there was, before, starting with us, like, 2.5 years ago, and, after starting with us?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm happy to say it's chalk and cheese, right? Like when I first started in real estate, I walked into the office, and I'd been brought in on a scholarship too. So like there'd been an interview process and stuff, and so it was supposed to be like, hey, this is the best way to enter real estate. And I came in on day one, and they set up my computer, and then they put me at the desk, and then the manager just disappeared. It's like there's your desk. There's your desk. Get into it, and you're like, And I think this is generically what most agents end up. They're like, what's going on? What am I supposed to do? And that's where you see, new agents, and they're scrolling through like Trade Me or whatever your version of Trade Me in Australia is, and they're looking at all these listings. And they're going, oh, who's got what? And they end up doing these sort of things to try and go, oh, I'll approach those guys when they're ready to come off their agency. They might go and start doing a bit of door knocking, which is like, you've got to be the right caliber person. You know what I mean? Like if you took 100 people and put them in a room, right, and said, right, you're all going to be salespeople, right, just generically, you're all going to be salespeople. 4 of those people are going to be killers, right? 4 of them they're going to have the wherewithal, the grit, the confidence, the articulation, the ability to emulate or become a chameleon, because you've got to
understand at least.
Yeah, exactly right. And so there's only a very small percentile of people that can do that. And so where I'm sort of getting is with real estate, we get floods of people coming in when it's a really good market, and they think it's all just easy. And sometimes it is, because you got Cheryl, who's a single mum with 2 kids, and she thinks, I might get into real estate, and she knows Billy down the road, and Billy lists his house with her in a good market. She sells it, gets a couple off that, she does 4 a year, and she thinks that's amazing. Market tanks, everything goes boom, and all of those people go, oh, I'm going to go back to hairdressing or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a really very small slice of the market that guts it out and goes, this is the path I've chosen. And I know, and I'm confident enough in myself that I can still sell in these markets, irrespective of what's happening.
You would have seen a lot of people come and go.
Oh, bro. Like the numbers speak for themselves, right? Like just when COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was sitting at home going, oh, what would be a really easy thing I could study now and get into and make heaps of money, right? And so don't quote me exactly, but I think like we went from 14,000 agents in New Zealand to like 18 or 19,000 in a 2-month period.
Yeah, 2 months.
Like the guys doing all the online training and that were just getting blasted, right? And so this massive influx of people coming in who were, they were teachers, or they were nurses, or all these people that couldn't work on mandate because if they didn't want to get the jab, they couldn't work or whatever. So this massive, big, vast amount of influx. And then within a year and a half after it all, finished, we were back down to like 15,000. So it can be a daunting task. And if you don't have the right skills, then you're sitting there doing nothing, right? And so the system that you have introduced me to, it takes away those moments of complete inactivity, right? So I would rather be inundated with leads which are semi-warm, like you've got to get on the phone, but you've got to be willing to do the hard work, because you can't just pick and choose on, I like that address and that number. You've got to grind. This game is a funnel, right? It's just maths. And the more you put in the top and you grind that up, it comes out the bottom, and that's it. And it's the same for every column of the operation. So lead generation, when you get the listing, the buyer funnel is exactly the same, because you put buyers, marketing, get the buyers on the top, grind, 2 fall out, competition, sold. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game.
It's just numbers.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Like on one of our calls before, you said it before, and you just hit the spot with that. Like, and I was speaking to one of our clients yesterday as well, just showing about the same kind of concept where she wasn't doing any calls. I said, "How many calls did you do yesterday?" "Oh, I did 3 calls for the week." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's probably where your hurdle is. That's probably where your obstacle is. You need to be doing 100 calls, 30 connects, per day, every day." Right. And have that consistency. And obviously, as a result of that, you have more appraisals. And as a result of having more appraisals, you're going to have more listings. So very much a numbers game. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
And activity breeds activity, right?
Yeah.
If you're not active, and it's not just, these leads that you get, sometimes you go and before you get to see the person that they have no intention of listing. Right? You know that. But you get the ability to go and meet them and present yourself to them in a way that makes them go, oh, I'm going to remember that guy. I like that guy. Then they go to the pub or to a restaurant and they meet somebody else that's a mate of theirs who's thinking about selling, and they go, oh, you should talk to X. I just met him the other day. That connection would never have happened.
Yeah.
Unless they were scrolling through Facebook and they pressed yes to one of the ads.
It's true.
That's the mechanics.
Now, like, what were you doing for prospecting before?
For the first few years, prospecting was networking groups, generally working other open days and stuff for other agents. So I would actively go to other agents and go, hey, are you taking any time off, or do you want to hand on X, Y, Z? So because you've got to meet people. Right. In the orchards and farms, it's actually not a massive group of people, if you know what I mean. Like, so in the Bay of Plenty, there might be 1,500 orchardists. So if you're getting out there and you're on orchard, and inevitably an orchardist is going to buy another orchard, right? Very, very few people are trying to gain access into that category. It's normally an orchardist buying another orchard. So by being there on somebody else's listing, admittedly, at the start, I was meeting those people. So that was one of the ways that I generated my base into that sort of category. And it was the same with dry stock farming, and then there's a lot of driving. You do go up driveways and
door knocking.
Yeah, you got that at those days you had to, but now, look, and I'm not saying. Well, I am saying I love the product that you provide, and but I could, after longevity in market, I could take it easy if I wanted to, and the phone kind of rings. You get to a point where you've aggregated out into the community enough, and your name's been out there enough on profiles for work that you've done, that people do tend to ring as well. So if I wanted to, I could dial the hunting back. I like being a killer. I like the hunt. That's the thing, and I think moving forward, just with a few changes that have happened here, I think I will develop a team to allow me to just do what I really enjoy, which is the hunt and the negotiation.
Depends what your appetite is, right? Like if you want to just like it's really like, it's a great reflection on the great work that you've done. If you've got a reputation when people just come to you, that's fantastic. Like that's really, really good. But if you're hungry, you're a shark, like your appetite is like, I want so much more, then you probably want something that will produce that for you. Yes.
Yeah. And like, I see other successful teams where, the lead guy, the lead agent, is very successful in what he does in securing work. So you secure, and then you've got to make sure you got the team to run those open days, work those buyers, and then at the end of that, just get, and I don't mean don't be present in those moments.
Of course.
You've still got to be omnipresent across the whole thing, but you have to work your time more efficiently. And so, if they can be buyers across the property in the interim, and then when the negotiation happens, then I jump back on board in there as well. I think that's one way that I'll be able to grow my own personal business to the level I probably want. So I'd see that, that's probably the 3 to 5 year goal.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, having a team and door knocking is super important, but also having that to be more efficient, having leads come to you is effective. So you're able to, like you said, be a shark and just book more and more appraisals that way, and also get the team to do door knocking as well. Having that omnipresence that you were talking about. Do you remember the reason? Do you remember the reason why, like, you were like, hey, Maurice, let's give this a go? Like, what was the main catalyst?
Obviously, I was sort of running a team at that stage, running a couple of teams. When I saw that, I thought, well, what a great opportunity for the business, for us as a company, to give, gratis for free, which was the first mistake, but give our agents these leads so that there could be some activity. Because, of course, in my mind, it was like, well, how great is this? These guys' leads, and they can utilize them and gain activity and get some listings and get momentum.
Yeah.
And the leads came in, and I think the biggest issue with that was that we were giving them out for free. And human nature, if you're just given something, you tend to.
No value behind it.
Yeah, and there's like one phone call. They might have made a phone call, and the person goes, "Oh, I was just scrolling on Facebook, and okay, don't worry about that. No worries, thank you, bye." No impetus to
requires effort, requires heart, requires passion. You still got to do work, like you said. You got to grind.
Yeah. So that was that first sort of 9 to 15 months. I think we were running that, sporadically for season to season, because we are quite seasonal. It got to a point where, as a management group, we were like, well, far out, this probably isn't working, because these guys aren't getting anywhere. And that's what was happening above me, was like what my principals were going, we're spending all this money and we're not seeing any results. And during that whole time, I wasn't doing anything with that. I was just dishing it out. So I was controlling that CRM, going, oh, yeah, that's one for him in that region. That's one. And I was just dealing the cards.
Right.
And it got to that point where I knew there was like, that's got to be real, we've seen it work for Chris. Why is it not working now? So I didn't audit, personally didn't audit, jumped on the phone, rung 60 people. And out of 60 people, four had heard of Collier's. They'd never heard from anybody. Guys weren't just doing the work.
So 4 out of the 60 only heard of Collier's. So you pretty much were able to flesh out that
only 4 of them had been called.
Right.
Out of the 60, which was just a segment. So I couldn't go and ring 350. So I had to go, right, well, here's a segment. I'm going to ring these people. And now I've got 60 answers. And of those 60 answers, only 4 ever remember being called by a Collier's agent. So it was quite damning. But of course, that then instilled me to go, well, hey, I'm going to do it for myself. Convince the guys to get on board as far as the management or principals in the business. And what I've done is I've got another younger agent. He's 35 or something like that, but a younger agent who I know, and he's hungry, and he's not as good looking as me, so it's not. I don't see myself. I don't see myself in him, but he's hungry, and he's good, and I can tell that he's got the right mannerisms and the right. He's charismatic, but subdued, so he interacts with people really well because they don't feel intimidated or threatened.
Yeah, that's like the perfect spot. That's like the perfect spot.
It is, because that's not me, right? Like I get that a lot. People are like, oh, because I'm quite a big guy and that, so it's a little daunting. You've got to break those barriers down.
Got it.
So my voice is very soft on the phone and that, and then but when you meet them, they're like, oh, so start again a little bit.
Yeah.
So like I brought him along for the ride. I was like, right, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it properly. We're going to structure this out and see what the results are. And he was like, yeah, I'm on board, man. Like this, I'm new and I want to do this, and we're hungry. And so we've done it. And look, the stats for the first 4 weeks were incredible because we were like on a cloud, fizzing. You know what I mean? And then after 4 weeks, the grind gets hard.
Yeah.
You're like, I've done the swim. I'm on the bike ride now. Oh, and it's getting harder, And like the last week and a half has been just manic because of course I've got all this other stuff because I'm still getting phone calls from people going, hey, can you list XYZ?
Yeah. So
I've still got the main part of my business, which is the farm and the big farms and big subdivisional work. I've just listed a 26 townhouse sell down and another 8 townhouse sell down, off plans, all these things that are sort of outside the sphere of Icon. So yeah, running ragged, like living on 4 hours sleep and just getting into it. But it's been really, I think, good. I've got some stats which I'm happy to go through. I think it's just demonstrated that if you put the work in, then do the work, get the treats.
Yeah, it's with anything in life, right? Like nothing in life is just simply handed to you. Even though it may be, even if it is perceived that it's just handed to you, you ought to do some work. Like whether it has happened prior, it's definitely going to happen afterwards. Like you've got to put the work. This way, the way to keep it still on the same level is the way the universe works, right?
Yeah.
Let's crunch some numbers, man.
So since we've started, we're 50 days in on this cycle.
Correct.
Okay, give or take a day or two, but 50 days in. The total leads, and I'm going to minus out Waikato because that's a separate column, right? So that's what Ike's doing. So it was 215 total, minus 20 leads, 195.
195 leads, yeah.
For Bay of Plenty, right? That was 195 leads. So out of those 195 leads, there were 27 residentials.
Got it.
Okay, so that took us down to 168. So 27 residentials is about 16%, right? So about 16% of the total volume was resi, which we're not looking for, but hey, that happens. There's crossover, and they've all been referred on to other agents.
Making a bit of a snip on that.
Well, we're still to see any of them translate those into a deal, but we're passing them on, and we're keeping a record of that. So we'll see what happens. So of the 168, we've done 20 online appraisals, right, which are just emailed to people.
168. This is all within the 50-day period.
Yeah, just 50 days. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've done 20 online appraisals, so actual digital appraisals sent on to people. 10 of those, though, we had actually met that person face to face. Right. So we'd gone there, we'd come back, we'd run them and said, hey, ready to present to you. And they'd gone, oh, look, we're not really in the zone right now. Can you just email it? And we've said, yeah, but we'd like to follow you up in a month or something. We'll come see you again. And if there's anything in there you don't like, just call back, blah, blah, blah. And generically, they're the ones where, because you got to be working in your own head as to body language and remembering who gave you the right vibes and who didn't. And so those ones, when I go digital appraisal, it's because in my head I'm like, yeah, that guy was really never in the running. Like that wasn't really going to translate. So it's easier to then give them the email one and not waste any more time, but just put a record for later, right? So that's the digital. So actual face-to-face interactions out of the 168 total face-to-face meetings so far in 50 days is 47. So it's almost one a day.
Wow. Okay, got you.
Okay. And that's 28% conversion rate. Yeah. So and the cost for each of those meetings is $116. Which is, that's not bad. I think that's good, right? Because that's a face-to-face interaction. And again, when we run through these costs per one, I would say to you at the end of it, what agent, if you were starting up, wouldn't say, if I could say to you, I can get you a listing tomorrow, online marketing with VMI, vendor marketing paid, of $3,000 to $5,000, which your face is on, it's all for you. If I can get you that for $1,100, would you do it? Well, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
Who in their right mind would go, oh, okay, hold on. I'll give you $1,100. You're going to give me a listing, which is up to me to sell, but you're going to give me $5,000 worth of marketing, and potentially there's a $30K or a $45K on the back of it. Who wouldn't do that?
Yeah.
So leading to that, face-to-face submissions, we got 39 submissions.
What's the submission? Because that's
the actual submitting the appraisal.
Got it.
Sitting down with them and going, hey, this is what we can do for you. This is what we think your property's worth. This is how much marketing, and this is what it's going to cost you for us to do it. Yeah.
Got it. So that's out of like the 48, you did 31 submissions.
Yeah. So out of the 47 plus the 10, it's 50 something. 39 face-to-face submissions, 23% conversion rate, right?
Healthy.
Off the 168. Yeah. Right. So out of the 168, we had 39 face-to-face sit down and read through a submission, which is, again, that's pretty good. Like that's nearly one a day again, really. Like on the day method, that's 78% or something like that.
Yeah.
And then from those submissions, we've had 5 listings, right? So 3 of them are live, paid VMI, and on the web, and 2 of them are off-market, no marketing, off-market, listed with the ability for us to introduce people to the property, right? So we know that we've got that stock, and this is important too, right? Like, so when you're rolling around with buyers and you're showing them something, they go, I'd really like that, but God, I'd love a villa, like I'd love an old villa. Hey, come and have a look at this old villa I've got, just up the road, blah, blah, blah. So it's important that we have those options as well. So those 5 all told, it's like $1,093 per listing was what it worked out to dollar-wise. Because at the total, at the moment, we're at about $5,500 for the 50 days. Again, remembering we're doing $50 general ad spend and then $20
including the 20
for the test.
Okay, got it. And that's not including the other campaign.
That's not including Waikato.
Got it. So 50 days, 50 days, 50 appraisals. Of the 50 appraisals, 5 have listed. Is that right?
Are we going to include digital appraisals or face-to-face?
Just face-to-face. I think that has
okay, so
weight.
50 days, 39 face-to-face submissions, 5 listings.
Healthy. And what is the total value of all 5 of those listings?
If they all come off at the levels that we think they will, it's about 180K total comms. Obviously, then there's split with company, and there's 2 of us, so split again. So, but the exercise is the exercise, right? It's about $50,000 worth of money back to me, in the event that it all pans out. But again, there's so much more. We've got oodles and oodles of pipeline going on, So people that we've talked about that are like, yep, spring, yes, we'll do this. We've still got so much to go through. Obviously, there's like 90 of those that we're still pending contact or still to chase, we're still going through that whole process on that, which is, the next step, obviously, with maybe that text or the email availability to try and warm those guys, still keep them warm while we're still trying to get to them.
Definitely. That is in progress. I spoke to Sean about that. We've got further correspondence back from Twilio, so I'll keep you posted about that. But out of 160 odd, leads that are, rural lifestyle, legitimate. We've done 39 physical appraisals. Of the 39, you did 5 listings. What is the value of those in its entirety, like dollar value? Because obviously the outcome of that dollar value is obviously what's gross is 180K in commissions, but what's the value of the properties out of curiosity?
The actual properties, about 8.5 mil.
Yeah, great.
We're working about a 2.5. It's pretty competitive in the rural market. So most of those are just at a 2.5 flat commission.
And then how about the system? Like the results of the system, like how do you feel like internally? Because at the end of the day, you could go about your business in 2 different ways. You can spend hours and spend money on petrol and traveling, door knocking, but with referrals, you can't really depend that there's a consistent flow of referrals. Like it might, a series of months could be like dry, and then you might have like a couple of referrals. So like having a system, like how do you feel inside having a system?
Yeah, well, it just makes things easy. You know what I mean? Like
nothing's easy, but easier.
No, but, it takes away a whole dynamic. Quite simply, I could, if I was just, and I know in resi this would just be super, right? And
dangerous.
Absolutely. Like if
I get your wife on, we got to get your wife.
Well, we're going. But if I could be bothered sitting down drinking cups of tea with old ladies, then I would. This would be monumental in resi, because you could just pick out a suburb and you could flog that like Seabiscuit. You could just over and over and over and over, and you would just get into a grind, and then it flows on. But
Mm.
with a farming area that you could have so tight like that, I can only imagine what this would be like. But for me, and James, I hope I can speak on his behalf, but I think it's just, again, like I keep saying, it's activity breeds activity, and the activity, yeah, we're paying for it, but it's taking a whole dynamic away from what we're having to do. We don't have to go out there. I've got two guys. I say I loosely now, but there's two guys in the Waikato that they've got a map, and they're like, oh, we're going to go do this road today, and they go and drive up all these driveways.
Yeah.
And they might meet somebody, or they might not. They might get a shotgun pointed at them, or they might get a reception of scones and a cup of tea. You just don't know what you're going to get,
Yeah.
And they'll do that for weeks on end, and might get 2 submissions. And they're like, yeah, look, we got 2 submissions.
Efficiency is what you're looking for. You don't.
Why wouldn't I? It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've got to be prepared to work them all, and be prepared for the no's, and be prepared for the, I was drinking, I didn't even know I'd done that, or I don't know who you're talking to, you shouldn't be calling me, blah blah blah, hang up, and that's you just got to keep breezing through that.
Yeah, and with any type of lead generation effort, there's not going to be like everyone just throwing themselves at you. It's going to be a case where you're going to have to, they're going to be a portion that are going to be, not interested. A portion of them that are going to be pipeline, and a portion of them would like to have a conversation with you.
Yeah,
sweet, man. Well, lastly, I just want to touch base, like, someone that's watching this, that's really on the fence about considering like jumping on board, and may have already been burnt in the past with another marketing agency. What would you say to them if they're watching this?
Look, I think, it would be difficult if you have had an issue with another company, you know what I mean? Like where it hasn't. No. Well, Sadie had worked with another company, but it worked for her there as well. But again, you got to be the right, you got to have the wherewithal to be able to do it.
Of course.
So the first thing I'd say to somebody, if they're thinking of investing money into something like this, is make sure that you're willing to be committed. Right? Like if you're not a person that is willing to make those calls immediately, like if you're a staller, if you're like, oh, I need to think about how I'm going to talk to this person.
Yeah.
This is probably not for you, that's something that you can't always learn, and you certainly can't learn it quickly and on the job. You got to have a bit of time on that. So if you're in that category, I'd be like, yeah, well, you can give it a go, but don't go blaming the system for non-performance if you can't do that. If you're a person and you don't have to be the killer, you don't have to be the caveman with the spear. You
do the work.
Yeah, you can just be a grinder. You can, as long as you don't get all teary-eyed about you said no, and like if you can brush it off and just keep moving forward and do the work, then do it. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you at least give it a go?
Yeah. Agreed. Man, thank you. Like, really, really thank you. I appreciate it. And it's always an easy conversation with you, man. Always an easy conversation. Just as we say in Australia, very much a fair dinkum guy. Very chill, very laid back. So always great working with you, man. And looking to really make this a very, very prosperous, long relationship where it's extremely profitable for you, and obviously as a result in turn for us as well. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, no worries. It's a pleasure.